Temple Scribe into the 2-1s, and SMJ is going to have to concede there. Beaten down by the 4 Seraphs.
You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
And we are back. Welcome back. Welcome back. This is Mark, aka Chibikawaii, joined by Mr. Pojo or LocoPojo himself. And we have an exciting matchup. We got a Praxis mid-range versus Xenon mid-range. Toth201 on Praxis and BruisedByGod on Xenon. Pojo, what do you think of this matchup?
Looks like it's going to be fairly interesting. We have Champion of Mystery and Mystic Ascendant on the top end of BruisedByGod's mid-range. He's actually got a lot more 6 and 7 drops than the Praxis mid-range, which is a bit lower to the ground than mid-range that you typically see. There's only 3 Heart of the Vaults in this deck, 3 Predatory Carnosaurs, and that's actually the top of the curve. From there, we have Obliterates and Shatterglasses at 5, Sandstorm Titans and Praxis Displacers at 4. It's kind of a more aggressive style of mid-range, and looks like it might do pretty well, especially with those Initiative of the Sands sort of ramping things out very quickly. But if BruisedByGod can survive the initial onslaught, the power of Mystic Ascendant and Champion of Mystery might allow him to sort of win out on card advantage. And in particular, a card that he can use to sweep the board and get himself into a better situation is that Venom Spine Hydra, which he's got 2 copies at the very, very top.
Yeah, excellent card. Yeah, so with that, maybe we can go ahead and see if the players are ready to start. It looks like they're looking at some mulligans right now. And yeah, we'll get them going here in just a minute.
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting to see a Xenon mid-range deck that's not focused around Copper Conduit and the sort of Xenon Killers idea. Instead, we're using Ion the Abductor and Banish. We're sort of getting that sort of big amount of card advantage out of Ion's Ultimate, and a lot of like interesting things going on in the deck. I'm really excited to see how it goes. And
yeah, I'm very curious about the Champion of Mystery. The card just seems a little bit like win more, but maybe not. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. That's what I've always felt about the card, rather.
As a 6-mana 7/7 that's also a hybrid color card and therefore immune to Annihilates, tends to be reasonably evasive, a little bit just decent on stats. So I think it can definitely do some work even if it doesn't have that 6 on either side. But in the late game is definitely where it truly shines.
Yeah, and this turn 1 Initiative of the Sands by Toth, allowing them to play the turn 2 Amber Acolyte, getting all that nice power fixing and influence that they need. Toth just needs something big, but he'll be able to cast it pretty quickly.
Yep, we see Avara's Favor onto the Initiate, which means that BruisedByGod is going to be getting hit by the Amber Acolyte for more damage, but Toth isn't going to be able to ramp quite as quickly up to that Amber Monument. However, he will be able to play Initiate again if he wants to this turn, or he can play another Amber Acolyte and start pulling more power out of his deck.
Yeah, oh, interesting. I actually kind of, I guess he's going to be able to play Amber Monument the next turn.
Yeah, Toth has a clear plan to ramp to, and no reason not to play that card, since if he plays Amber Acolyte next turn because the Initiate dies, then he'll still be pretty much entirely on curve. So with the attacks here, he's going to be getting a little bit of damage in. Toth has not drawn anything really of value to him at the moment, though, and that second Vara's Favor is pretty brutal.
Ooh, but now he can just play out Sandstorm Titan because he naturally has the 5 power to turn on that Amber Monument.
Yep. So with Titan out, the 2 Initiates dying is not like the worst thing in the world for him. It's just kind of a shame that they died to Vara's Favor, which is really card neutral for BruisedByGod. So Temple Scribe sort of chumming up the board a little bit, preventing the Amber Acolytes from attacking in too strongly.
Yeah, because we don't see anything like Obelisk or whatnot. So yeah, I think you're for either side. So that Amber Acolyte's not going to be doing a ton. So I think I agree with serving here, even though it's going to trade. At least gets a unit off the board for Bruised.
Yep, throwing it out and getting the early aggression in. Toth can now play his Reinarch. Unfortunately, his threat pool is just really, really weak right now. He just doesn't have anything to play, and BruisedByGod hasn't really played any of his cards yet. So as long as he keeps answering these 5/5s, like at this point he could play down a Sandstorm Titan and be in commanding control of the board.
Yeah, so we're gonna get in for 5. That's gonna eat. The Reinarch's gonna eat a Death Strike, and the Initiative stands off the top for Toth. Not gonna be doing a whole lot, considering already at 6 power. That means, and they have 3 of each influence, so they can already cast everything in the deck. And I don't believe there are any X spells, right?
Yeah, the only situation where the Initiate helps Toth is if he plays Heart of the Vault and draws into something that needs an extra power 2 to play.
Good point.
Champion of Mystery coming down. It is a big
Ooh.
7/7, and 7 health, it turns out, is a lot of health against a red deck. I actually think that this is a pretty serious threat for Toth. At the most, he can purify it, which he doesn't need to at the moment because it doesn't have anywhere near the influence that it needs. But it's getting pretty close to being unblockable every turn, and that's a pretty significant threat.
Yeah, but 6 influence for each one. That's so much. I guess that's another reason why I've kind of shied away from playing around with Champion of Mysteries. 6 influence is just a lot of influence, no matter what kind of deck you are.
It certainly can be tricky, but this is definitely the kind of card you want to play in a Praxis-heavy meta. And if we've seen 2 Praxis decks so far, at least, there's definitely some things that can be going on here. This card is immune to Obliterate. It doesn't die to Annihilate. And when it does get that unblockability, that's a big hit. 7 is just a lot more than 6 in this game, and it can be pretty beneficial here.
Yes, we're going to teach... At wow, yeah, this is going to be a big hit. So going down to 11, no matter what here, and then we'll take another potentially 3 to 5, and then we'll see if the Temple Scribe actually gets blocked or not.
Yeah, Toth's in a very bad situation here. His initiates are designed to ramp him into a position of advantage early and get him sort of tempo plays on the larger mid-range deck. But with the Vara's favor, what generally ended up happening was he just lost a lot of threats because the only cards that you were playing were ramp cards. And now that he's drawn a bunch of power as well, it doesn't really help him all that much. He can purify the 7/7 to make it not unblockable.
And so we're just chumping it. Okay.
Yeah, that allows a chump that could potentially get him into a slightly better situation, but I think he's quite dead at this point. Yeah, Dawnwalker is it. So Toth just very low on threats for the whole game, and BruisedByGod high on removal to everything that he needed to remove. So from there, he gets to play down his later game threats, his 7 drops and his 6 drops and his 5 drops, and just roll over Toth's board. We see the correct chump block here to save him one more turn, but I'm not sure what Toth is looking for at this point. A Heart of the Vault would be okay. Predatory Carnosaur is pretty close.
Yeah, what is that? So
helps
you get
him
to
on board. He can kill the Reinarch, and then he can block the 7/7.
Yeah. Or Bruise just has a Death Strike. That works too.
Yeah, with that Death Strike, that seals it up for Toth, and we are going to see them going into game 2. So
yeah, so, excellent game. Congratulations to Bruised there. What do we think's coming in from the board for both these players? I do like the 2 banners that are in the sideboard for BruisedByGod. That can't be right, because he's already got 4 banners in the main deck.
It's quite possible that those are filler cards because he had a smaller sideboard than he was supposed to, or some sort of But yeah, in any case, it looks like he does have Slime Spitter Slug and Predatory Carnosaur. Carnosaur is a very good card for him here. It just trades well with a lot of mid-range stuff, and it's one of Toth's star cards, so having one more copy of him than Toth could be very, very good for him. Steward of the Past is a good way to sort of slow down the deck, but BruisedByGod is in a very good position, so he doesn't have to sideboard too hard in order to get himself out of any particular trouble. In the meantime, what Toth might be considering doing is cutting the initiates for a few more threats. He doesn't have a lot more threats in the deck at the moment, but cards like Soulfire Drake, Diogo Malaga, and Xenon Initiation all help him quite a bit, whereas Lumen Defender at least sort of allows him to stabilize against some of the bigger threats in the opponent's deck. I don't think he wants to go defensive here. I think he wants to stay on the offensive, since his deck is just always going to have a smaller curve, but we'll see exactly what he ends up running in.
Yeah, I definitely agree with getting a little bit, just trying to get a little bit more aggressive. That's why, I guess you could leave in the initiates and bring in the obelisks and just try to go as wide as possible. I don't know how well that would play out because Bruised, yeah, with those with the ions in there, that doesn't seem like a winning strategy. So maybe not.
Yeah, the problem with bringing in obelisks against a shadow deck is that the shadow deck is trying to weigh out your mid-range threats simply by removing them. So
Yeah.
if he's playing Banish and Annihilate and Death Strike, then obelisk just reduces the number of threats that you are playing every turn, which means that it makes it easier for BruisedByGod to do exactly what he just did. So like in this situation, Toth actually needs to increase the density of his threats as much as possible. Cutting out the initiates might be a good option for that. Certainly cards like Soulfire Drake really generate threats that have to be dealt with immediately, and that can be very, very good for him. The one thing that Xenopolis does have going for it here is that it allows him to trade more evenly with Champion of Mystery, which as a 7/7 is actually very well positioned against the standard 6/6s of Praxis midrange. So like it just gives him something else to do since he can't obliterate the champion, he can't really block it. There isn't really any sort of good answer for it in a red deck, and as a result, the Xenon deck can really sort of take advantage of that and exploit that particular weakness. So yeah, Champion of Mystery does do work. It's just that it primarily does work as a vanilla unit. It's not the influence requirements that it gets that really help it out.
And I think that's I was underrating it at that. I should have taken it at face value of it being a 7/7/6 drop. But it looks like both players have started playing again. Toth going to just play out a depleted banner, I believe. Bruise just passing the turn. And yeah, it looks like we're just going to be draw going here for a little bit.
Yep, pretty common for the mid-range setup. Toth does appear to have either exiled the initiates or gone for something else in that situation. We have Amber Acolyte here, and that'll keep the power running up. Once he gets to Sandstorm Titan on 4, he's going to start laying down threats every turn, and we'll see exactly how that goes. Ian the Abductor is a good ambush here, mostly just because gaining a little bit of extra life really helps out BruisedByGod.
Yes. And
Toth might not have a good way to answer it for a while. He can continue to play Sandstorm Titans, which will defend against Ian, but every time BruisedByGod removes one of those, he gets to just gain 3 life off of that exchange.
Yeah, but I mean, getting 2 Sandstorm Titans on the board pretty early has to that's going to put a fair amount of pressure on Bruised.
Yeah, Toth has a much better game plan for this round than he did the previous round. He may be answered by banishes, annihilates, and death strikes every turn that he plays a card, but he's still playing a card every turn for the next 5 to 6 turns.
Yeah,
which means that BruisedByGod is going to run out of removal eventually, and he's going to have to basically play defensively and reactively while Toth continues to just generate threats.
Yeah, and I actually like throwing out the second Sandstorm here. I'd rather that eat some removal because then my Soulfire Drake ends up getting turned on, right? And we saw where there's not a ton of flying going on in Bruised deck. So if the Soulfire Drake can actually stick around for a little bit, granted, it also dies to almost every piece of removal. Well, I guess it only gets hit by the 2 Annihilates and Death Strike, because Banish does not hit it. So definitely has that ability there.
Yeah, Bruised putting down his Champion of Mystery, and Toth actually with the answer in hand. He can Praxis Displace. That'll give him more stuff on board, allow him to actually trade with Ian, and it will give him a little bit more pressure because he can start attacking him in with his mid-range units and just continue to start pushing forward. He can also play Heart of the Vault here and stay a little bit defensive, although that sets him up for a potential 2-for-1 if he gets annihilated while blocking in a double situation.
Yeah. I'm trying to. Yeah, I think I agree with your line. Just playing the Praxis Displacer, bouncing the champion, and then getting in for 5.
Yeah, there are some other options here too. He can play Carnosaur and kill a unit and get himself a little bit better board. He can play Soulfire Drake and just try and get that better deck going on, which can certainly help him out if he draws more threats. The earlier Soulfire Drake gets that into him, the better it is for him, but also Soulfire Drake is kind of his key damage dealer, so going to be a little bit tricky to see how that goes.
What do you think of that attack there by that Ion?
Interesting one. Certainly the Praxis Displacer was always going to be around to block, and Champion of Mystery doesn't really need to double block.
Sure.
So yeah, if BruisedByGod is setting up a Dark Return or something here, that makes perfect sense. Otherwise, it might be a little bit too aggressive.
Yeah. Now, do you play the Do you play the Sandstorm Titan and set up for a double block of your own, or do you just go ahead and get
aggressive?
aggressive?
Here would be to attack with the 5/5, since if he does block, you can play Heart of the
Mhm.
Vault. And from here, if he wants to play the Sandstorm Titan or the Heart of the Vault, either one is a decent option. I'm not sure if there's one that's particularly best.
Sure.
So BruisedByGod is not going to be getting any like major advantages out of the Champion of Mystery beyond the fact that he can just sort of attack with it and deal a lot of damage. He knows that there's some sort of trick here, so he doesn't really want to play down anything into the champion. And yeah, at this point he gets 7 points of free damage while Toth tries to set up a 6/6 into a Heart of the Vault. But it's going to be real tricky for him from this point forward.
Yeah, so we'll... well then.
Spine Hydro, the other 7/7, and
Yeah.
Toth just has a hard time dealing with these cards. Like if he can attack with the 6/6, kill the 7/7, and then play down Heart of the Vault to kill the to kill the Champion of Mystery is basically the idea. And then from there he has to double block the Venom Spine Hydro, which is just an actual 2-for-1 for him.
This is rough. Like, so I'm almost wondering, had he played the Soulfire Drake earlier in the game, like right after the Sandstorm Titan had was taken out by that banish.
I'm not sure it would have helped him, since the only thing that would have gotten Charger Flying was Praxis Displacer.
It would have been 15 points of damage at this point, right?
Yeah, he would be a little bit ahead on clock, which is a helpful way to sort of push forward here. Playing the Heart of the Vault first is pretty savvy, since BruisedByGod does not, in fact, have any power-ups, so he can just sort of take a look at his hand and see what he can get. From here, though, he's run into a bit of a problem. He can at least chump block with Amber Acolyte, which definitely helps him out here.
Is there a reason to chump?
Just to attack in, like, or force your opponent to Death Strike his own Venom Spine Hydra. Like, if you attack for 11 here and obliterate whatever it is that BruisedByGod plays, you start to get into a much better situation life-wise, where you are just as threatening as he is in terms of attacking. Now, if Toth attacks, BruisedByGod is forced to either like actually throw some removal at it or do something just to kill the Venom Spine Hydra.
Ooh, just getting in for 16.
Yep, going for the whole bit, hoping BruisedByGod does not have good removal. We see a Death Strike on the Heart of the Vault, and that's 10 right there.
Okay.
Toth does not have the power to win this race at the moment, but with Obliterate, he gets really close. Unfortunately, BruisedByGod does have a second Ion, so that's 10 damage over the face, and now it's going to be really hard. Let's see here.
Well, it still puts Bruised right at 16, right? So, if Bruised doesn't have, if
nothing else happens here,
well, all right. Ooh.
Oh, okay. So close here, but I'm not sure if he has a way to get out of this. He can block with the 5/5s. Yeah, he can play down a Sandstorm Titan and sort of wait out the turn, create a series of blocks that are not super advantageous for him, but at least somewhat advantageous for him.
Yeah.
He could also just obliterate one of these units and then choose to block the other two. Like, for example, hitting the Ion would get 3 damage onto BruisedByGod's face, and as long as he doesn't have removal, he can then just choose to block the 5/5 and the 5/2, and or block the 5/5 and the 7/7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that still puts Toth on the back foot for the next couple of turns, but he's getting up to the point where he can actually start casting both a Titan and an Obliterate in the same turn. Yes. So if he can get a little bit ahead of this, he can sort of leverage his current card advantage by just drawing some power.
Yeah, this is definitely a difficult line. I think I do like Obliterate the Ion, but then I guess, yeah. Because like Toth also has to worry about a power off the top for Bruised, right? And then just getting a 10-10 out of the yard.
He chooses to obliterate the Reinarch. This is a pretty good play in my eyes, as he now has a double block open on the Venom Spine if BruisedByGod chooses not to attack with Ion. The one problem here is that if BruisedByGod plays a power, then that's just game.
Yes, exactly.
He gets to, yeah.
And there we go. Yep.
Yeah, I think Toth either was really hoping that he didn't have a power there, but yeah, that's a 10-10 on the board, and that's not a thing that Toth can answer effectively. So because he didn't obliterate the Ion, I think he's going to lose this match pretty handily. There's some potential that he was going to lose anyways, but it's going to be tough for him at this point. Block trigger is...
Yeah.
Or he could just jump here. That would allow him to at least attack into the 10-10 and obliterate it, although that leaves him vulnerable to the Ion once again. So, yeah, there's not a lot of good options for Toth here.
No. I'm trying to think. Is there a unit that could get charge off the top? So if another Sandstorm Titan had charge? Oh, just trading. That's not going to do it.
And yeah, he only can play one card this turn. That's not going to be good enough to answer 2 units. So Toth is dead, and BruisedByGod takes this game.
Yes, it does. Congratulations, Bruised. So now we're checking to see if we have any backup matches. So just be 1 second, everyone. But while we're waiting for those, what do you? I feel like this played out more or less like you predicted, in terms of.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I can't seem to hear you at the moment, Chibikawaii. But you just cut out for a moment. Yep. Okay, I've got you now.
Okay.
So
weird.
Yeah, like so the Xenon midrange deck appears to be just a pretty good answer to the Praxis midrange style that sort of took over the meta a while back. I don't think it's been as popular lately, but it's been making a comeback. So this is a good deck to bring in against sort of the big mid-range control decks, specifically the ones that are sort of designed to answer the big control decks. This has all of the value that you really want out of cards. Like cards like Ion actually give you a lot of extra value. Cards like Champion of Mystery provide really good defenses against red decks in particular. And like combined with a bunch of other just big value cards, Xenon really has a mid-range archetype that can spar with the best of them. So it's a neat thing to see. It exposes a real weakness in the Praxis mid-range archetype, and seems like a good counter deck to be running on the ladder if you're seeing a lot of Praxis mid-range. So yeah, it's cool to see. I think it's a really interesting matchup, and yeah, I'm glad to see BruisedByGod take this one. So we'll see what happens in the next round as well.
Yeah, and good luck to both players moving forward. So with that, though, we're going to take a quick step back. I'm going to tell you guys, a little bit about what the Eternal Tournament Series is all about. So again, Eternal Tournament Series is what we're playing right now. It's an absolutely free tournament, so you have no excuse not to build a deck, get in here, play. We want to see you guys out. We want the community to grow. It's a good thing. Again, free, no excuses. So come out and play. If you do well at these, you might get a little invite to the Invitational that happens at the end of every season. And if you do well at the Invitational, again, the next one coming up, 28th and 29th, you're going to end up being able to go to our we have annual, or we have the mid-year, and then we have the final championships, both of which actually have large prize pools, and the Invitationals have prize pools as well. So again, free entry, come play every Saturday. It's going to be good stuff. Do well, get to the Invitational, do well again, win a lot of money, easy peasy. You can find the full calendar of events at aReNGeeeternal.com. So with that, I think we will take a little bit of a break, and we'll be back for our round 3.